Today, we are diving into the pros and cons of living in East Cobb, Georgia. First up is education. It's a big pro for people moving to East Cobb. East Cobb is renowned for its exceptional schools, and in fact, most people choose to move to East Cobb because of the schools. Schools like Lassiter, Walton, Hope, Wheeler, and these are all high schools, along with their elementary and middle school feeders, consistently ranked among the top high schools in Georgia. And for families prioritizing education, this is a significant draw. Each of these schools have their own nuances, and it's really important to take a look at each school and how it relates to your child, because truth be told, rankings, well, they're not everything. And I'll give you an example. Walton High School is hyper competitive when it comes to academics and sports, and not all kids are going to thrive in that kind of environment. And let's be honest, most of the time, we don't even know what kind of student we have until they get into the middle school years. In fact, we moved to East Cobb for the schools before our first son was even ready to go to school. Then we didn't end up going to the public schools in East Cobb until much later because we didn't feel like they were a good fit for my particular child. So my recommendation is to take advantage of each school's kind of Facebook page and really network. We can also help guide you and introduce you to local parents who have kids in these schools. We're always happy to be a resource and a connection when it comes to figuring out what school is best for you.
By the way, if you're thinking about making a move to East Cobb or Atlanta, give us a call, text, or book an appointment using the link below. Another draw to East Cobb is its affordability. So when you're comparing it to places like Buckhead, Sandy Springs, and Milton, and even Johns Creek, East Cobb is really quite affordable. So especially when it's coupled with the exceptional schools that we just mentioned. In East Cobb, a single family can range between $550,000 to well over $1 million. Plenty of different options there. There are limited townhome and condo options, but there are some options for families to get into East Cobb and build up some equity to possibly get into that more expensive single family home if that's something they're looking for. East Cobb has a variety of beautiful established neighborhoods, whether you're looking for, that charming home or something really grand and modern. A traditional two-story, there is just something for everybody's style and taste. Neighborhoods with large high-end multi-million-dollar homes like Indian Hills, which is also a country club, and more mature communities like Chimney Springs, which has that sort of 70s, 80s feel, but it has really amazing amenities. And a lot of the neighborhoods here do have great amenities like swim, tennis, and some of them have small playgrounds and trails throughout the community.
Another big pro is the access to parks and recreation. Outdoor enthusiasts are going to love East Cobb because the access to these parks and recreational activities is huge. We've got the scenic Chattahoochee River trails, which border Sandy Springs. And we talk a little bit about the benefit of living in East Cobb over Sandy Springs. And then we have East Cobb Park, which has playgrounds and baseball fields. And there is no shortage of outdoor spaces to enjoy. Organized competitive sports are huge. We've got like football, lacrosse, baseball, and of course, everyone's favorite, pickleball for kids, and there are also leagues for adults. And these activities are just plentiful, and they contribute to this close community vibe.
So another big pro of East Cobb is the location. This was a huge draw to our family because at the time my husband was commuting in the Sandy Springs. East Cobb is conveniently located just a short drive from Atlanta, especially if you're living on the south side of East Cobb. This means that you'll have access to the city amenities, and if you're working in town, and some of the more cultural attractions that you're not going to get living in the suburbs. So if commuting is something that you're taking into consideration, the southeast corner of East Cobb might be the place to take a look. We can guide you through that. It's the closest to the city, and it's bordering Sandy Springs, offering access to I-75 and the Georgia 400. So if you're commuting up north into the tech bubble, Alpharetta, any of those places, 400 is just a quick drive. East Cobb is also conveniently located near a ton of grocery shopping items. So if you're moving from a big city, I always felt like that was a struggle living in Boston, is that we, didn't have a lot of grocery stores. So within 5 minutes of anywhere you're living, you're going to have access to a Target, plenty of grocery stores like Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Publix, Kroger, really anything you're looking for. We do have a more upscale plaza called the Avenue, which has some of the higher end retailers as well, and they're bringing in some new restaurants.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the cons. We just discussed what our favorite kind of pros are about East Cobb. So East Cobb's popularity comes with its own challenges, one being traffic. Okay, traffic is bad, and the commute times can be frustrating. not quite Atlanta bad, but bad enough to be a con on our list. Intersections like Johnson Ferry Road, which is the main thoroughfare running through East Cobb, and where that intersects both Lower Roswell Road and Upper Roswell Road, which is also called 120. During the peak hours, those intersections can become quite busy, leading to longer commute times into the city, and in turn, short trips turn into long trips, just getting from one side of East Cobb to the other. And no, public transportation is not really an option. Residents rely on their personal vehicles as a general preference, and there's really no rapid transit or bus system serving East Cobb.
So another con on our list is the lack of nightlife, entertainment, and shopping. Okay, so we talked about the plentiful grocery stores, super convenient. We have lots of strip malls. East Cobb does not have a charming southern downtown like some of the neighboring suburbs that are close to Marietta or in Marietta. Marietta Square in West Cobb and historic downtown Roswell. There aren't many local events, farmers markets, or independent and boutique shops around. Not a ton of restaurants, mostly just big chains. And in terms of the walkability and convenience of getting around, there aren't a lot of sidewalks or connectivity with trails, so you're very car dependent, as Jen said, and it just kind of feels like we're a little behind here.
Yeah. East Cobb was built in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and there wasn't much thought put into the city planning, which is why it kind of feels this way.
Yeah.
There's no real downtown center, but what we do have are a lot of HOA neighborhoods.
Okay. Not everybody loves those.
No. A lot of people do not like them. And if you're not familiar with homeowner associations, they're a governing body within a neighborhood that kind of ensures the rules and regulations of the community are followed. Now, sometimes they can be a little bit overbearing, like dictating what length your grass can be. I mean, I've heard stories like this, and what color you can paint your home. But they also help keep the neighborhood looking beautiful, and that keeps everyone's home property values high. The truth is, most HOAs in East Cobb are not terribly strict and only send you kind of a friendly reminder if you're in violation of a rule. And by the way, there are plenty of non-HOA neighborhoods in East Cobb, and most of those neighborhoods are kind of the older, more established neighborhoods. So on the flip side of that kind of negativity that comes along with HOAs, you really get a strong sense of community by living in those types of neighborhoods. They often have the swim tennis amenities, planned events year-round, and when you're missing that throughout the community, like those farmers markets and things like that, they can be really great within your own neighborhood. I think in East Cobb, it's that the benefits far outweigh the negative nuances associated with HOAs.
Another con is East Cobb has a bit of a reputation for being pretentious. So you'll sometimes hear the term East Cobb snob being thrown around, and there's definitely some truth to that stereotype. It's not uncommon to see teenagers driving newer high-end cars or to hear conversations about lake homes and multiple international vacations. So it can sometimes feel like there's a pressure to keep up with the Joneses. Now that said, the excellent schools and lower tax rate, I think, contribute to families being able to live this more elevated lifestyle. And not every family lives this way. So I think over time, this all tends to feel pretty normal. That said, I get why many families don't mind this downside in particular. Between the school events and sport commitments, everyone here stays incredibly busy. So it's still worth noting that this packed schedule can mean fewer kids are out in the neighborhoods playing, which can make things feel less lively. So just be prepared for that. We love East Cobb. It offers a great blend of suburban comfort, and really the community is what sets East Cobb apart from some of the other suburbs.
I mean, I grew up in East Cobb and moved my family back to East Cobb, and Alison lives in East Cobb.
That's right.
So we really do love the area.
Yeah, it's really an attractive place to live. However, potential residents should weigh the pros and cons, which we hope we helped you with today, regarding traffic and school activities to determine if it really aligns with your lifestyle and your goals.
Thanks for watching. We would love to know what you think about East Cobb. Share your thoughts with us in the comments below, and we'll see you next week.